when you get bored, it makes you realize how not fun it is to have a life without meaning.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like this pairing of like opening my heart, like getting bored and having to do something about it, like always made me constantly take on new challenge. And then when you have a challenge and you commit to it, because you have to commit to it, and you give it a real shot, then you like can see if it's the path or not.
What's up, guys? Welcome to the Invictus Mindset Podcast. Today's guest is the 2014 fittest woman on earth. She's a mom, an engineer, and the founder and creator of Feroce Fitness, empowering women to be their strongest selves. She's one of the most well-recognized women in fitness, Camille Leblanc Bazinet. Welcome to the show.
Hi. I'm sorry.
That's fantastic.
I can never handle anyone giving my stat because
It's super cool though, because I've known you for so long. So to like pause for a moment and look down memory lane, it's like, whoa, that's my friend Camille. It's cool to see like how much you've accomplished in the short amount of time that I've known you.
Yeah, the life is definitely interesting, and how if you're willing to, like, you grow, change, and evolve very quickly, constantly, in a new version of yourself. And I feel like I'm so far apart from like when I won the CrossFit game. I like don't feel like the same person at all, which I think is a great thing. But it's like almost weird that happened in my past, because I'm just very far removed from that.
I mean, you've done some pretty cool things since. You've started a couple businesses. You've leaned into hormone health and different forms of training modalities to combine with the world of knowledge that both you and Dave had. And then simultaneously, you had your baby girl, Zoe.
Yeah, she's the best. I think once you become parents, it's like, I don't know, the whole world changed. We've been through some really hard things too in order to become parent. But I think, yeah, I feel like I'm constantly just leaning into the challenge from life, and I'm trying to constantly figure out like what's the meaning. I just think that living with meaning is really what life is all about. So I'm not really searching in a way for happiness. I think it comes from living with meaning. So I'm constantly trying to find out what's my next meaning. And I think that's why my life is constantly evolving. I'm terrified of staying where I was 5 years ago.
Yeah, for sure. Stagnation is probably a form of hell's waiting room for most, just being in the same place that you were the year previous. But what I think is really cool is the fact that you think about this. We talk often on this podcast around Viktor Frankl's man's search for meaning. And that meaning changes rapidly over time. Back in the day, it was to win the CrossFit Games. And then it became humbly like to motivate and inspire women in their journeys. And then you went through a very challenging struggle in the hospitalization and the pursuit of, a healthy birth of Zoe. What was that experience like, and how did that kind of shift Camille a little bit?
Yeah, I think I feel like until you're like 25 years old, you go through life with this like, I'm invisible, not invisible,
Invincible.
invincible.
There's the French Canadian dialect.
Yeah. You're like, I'm invincible, and it's a lot of like me, like how can you like really live in everything around your own self, because you're trying to figure out who you are. And then, you turn 25. And for me, that's what happened when I turned 25. It was like almost a flip, that like my heart just felt empty. And I was like, why am I doing things for me? It feels so like self-centered and so like empty. And I felt very empty when I was 25. which is funny because it's the year I won the CrossFit game. I think I was 25. And then it kind of became this search of like, how can I help other people? And that's always been at the root, I think, of who I am as a person. Like my everything about me revolve around love, compassion, and how to help. And then obviously I got pregnant, and when I got pregnant, it was very humbling because I got so sick. I got extremely sick. Most people don't know this. I lost 10 pounds in my first trimester. I couldn't walk without vomiting, pretty much. I had to be on chemo medication to help with the nausea because I couldn't eat. Because I was just constantly sick because of the hormones. And I literally was seeing myself being wasted away, like was losing all my muscle. And then when I finally got that medication for nausea, I think in 2 months, I gained like 40 pounds because my body was my body was going crazy to have food again. So then I gained a ton of weight. Then Zoe came early. Then I spent 12 weeks at the hospital, and I suffered very drastically from PTSD from the hospital, and then fell down spiraling into this depression and extreme anxiety. I used to have so much anxiety. It was like devastating. And I think going through all of that, like really opened this curtain, like for me to really see a lot of what people go through that I've never experienced so deeply. And it was just eye-opening because I could see those things for what they were, and then I could see other people going through this instead of going like what's going on with this person? Like, I don't understand. Like, I remember when I was younger, I couldn't understand why people just, you're like, just get up and go. You're like, you just don't understand. You're like, well, if you want something, like, go get it. And it's like,
it sounds so cliche, but it sounds like this experience really helped develop your compassion and your empathy because you kind of went through a very dark time and seeking the help and leaning on others for help when it sounds like up until 25, you were invincible. You were pursuing the CrossFit Games. You could do what you want when you want, and your body was responding to your mind. And then you went through this experience, and there was this gentle disconnect between mind and body, and you were like, I'm not sure what to do or how to navigate this. Trident Coffee is sponsoring this episode of the Invictus Mindset Podcast. My guys over at Trident taught me something really important this last year. That we are all a bundle of stories, both good and bad, and everything in between. At Trident, they're storytellers. All of their cold brews remind their customers that they are part of something bigger than themselves. They help create connections through symbology and storytelling that engage their customers on an emotional level, and this distinguishes them from other coffee brands. You can find Trident in Imperial Beach and in Coronado. They offer over 14 plus nitro cold brews along with dairy-free options. You can find the perfect brew and pair it with one of their treats from their keto bakery. All these options will allow you to support your health and fitness journey with Trident Coffee. They're more than just a coffee company. You can check them out over at tridentcoffee.com and use code Invictus20 for 20% off online and in tap rooms. Once again, that's tridentcoffee.com. Use code Invictus20 for 20% off online and in tap rooms. Take your coffee experience to the next level. Two important factors for us over at Invictus Mindset are true care and attention to detail. My friends over at RX Smart Gear have been bringing innovative fitness tools to the market since 2009. From their award-winning Evo speed ropes, to their amazing gymnastics grips, to their line of inflatable fitness equipment, they're constantly looking to problem solve within the fitness industry. They're always allowing us to have our gear work for us rather than against us. Hop on over to RX Smart Gear and use discount code Invictus Mindset to shop their latest cutting edge gear. Have your gear work with you and not against you.
Yeah, I think, when I was up to 25, what was so different, there was other challenge. It was just very different. Like my challenge back then, my first year I qualified for the CrossFit game. I had no CrossFit gym to train at. I had no money. I would steal like peanut butter from my roommate in order to feed myself because I like literally was broke, and I was, trying to study chemical engineering, and I was completely underfed, and I would try to figure out how to makeshift my training at the Globo Gym, where they would yell at me all the time because I would do those weird kipping pull-up thing. For me, like that first year I did qualify for the CrossFit game, it was a glimpse of hope. There was like hope to get out of my situation. There was hope to be, bigger and better than what I thought was possible for me, coming from a very small town where it seems like opportunity are quite limited. And giving hope to someone who is desperate is a very potent tool. And I wasn't going to waste that opportunity away. So pretty much until I was 25, I was on this path of I am going to kill myself in order to build something that can be sustainable, that, to get out of here, to be someone, to do something. I don't think I cared much about being someone, but it was really that I just saw and I believed that I could be more than what I was. And that was so appealing. And I've always been a dreamer for as long as I can remember. And it was there was this dream, and I had something to chase, something with meaning. And it was very potent. The challenges were very different. And then, when I was 25, I won the CrossFit game. And it felt like things started to settle a little bit. But looking back, and I mean, you've seen me train during those years, I was so focused. Like at the gym, like a lot of people would go out and eat together a lot. And for me, it's not that I didn't want to do it, but it didn't fall in line with my goal. And I worked too hard to get out of the situation I was in. So there was no balance. Like people would ask me back then, like, how do you balance everything? And I think looking back, I'm like, my answer were BS, because I'd be, I do this and I do that. There was no balance, and I was okay with it. And for me, that was healthy. So because people go, you had no balance, that's not healthy. No, it was. That's exactly what I needed. I needed that kind of focus, that kind of determination, that kind of desperation in order to achieve that goal and then get to the next step.
It's so interesting that things are like, it's a mystery looking forward, but science looking back. And at the time, it was like you had to narrow your focus, because even though it was gently misunderstood by the external world, intrinsically inside your heart and soul, you were escaping something. You were getting away from living inside of a box, as we gently talked about offline. And you were inside the cocoon for so long that you were like, it's time for Camille to spread her wings. And you got to taste that with that very potent tool being hope in how you navigated the Globo Gym training in pursuit of the CrossFit Games. I just think it's so cool to see you come alive as we kind of explore some of the little roadblocks and the stairs that you climbed in order to get to the now.
I mean, it's so easy for any of us to look at someone and only see what we want to see, because then it makes our own reality like fit the narrative we wanted to fit. But people they just don't know how hard I pushed. Like, oh man, even me, I look back and I'm like, that is insane. Like insane, like how hard I pushed back then to become who I was. And I'm kind of doing the same thing now in just a much different way, because now the focus has shifted to really like figuring out the woman's body. Because now that I've gone through the NICU, now that I've gone, I do feel like anxiety and depression is still like it's part of me every day. Like every morning is hard to get up. But like really trying to understand those components in order to like take away like the shame and guilt that come from them, understanding it, and then being able to make like actionable change with like scientific tool that has been proven to help with those things, and apply it and get your life going in the direction you want it to go, has been like just so exciting, because you get to get out of like that dark hole, and you get to like bring meaning back in your life. And that's like what I want to share so badly with people, because there is just a way out, and it's very exciting.
I love the way you describe that, Camille, and I really appreciate you sharing a lot of these different experiences that you've been through. I think inevitably anxiety and depression lie probably on a spectrum. And depending on where you are in the journey, that noise or that whisper can be louder or more into the forefront of the lenses. And what I'm hearing is that because you've experienced that, you've witnessed it, you've observed it, you've made friends with that tiny monster and realized he's not as fearful as he once was for you. And then you're providing a little bit of a roadmap and tools for people to navigate as they may come face to face with that little monster. And I think that's incredibly courageous, because there's so many different ways to do that. And I think, this leads us to a little bit of a controversial topic, but I mean, so much of the world's like, oh, you have that problem, here's some medication. Yeah. And, the medication that you guys are providing is lifestyle, it's nutrition, it's mindset, it's different fitness modalities to give people an out, enhance community, give them a co-pilot or somebody joining in that journey to converse and talk about it. And then fitness is kind of the tool that helps motivate, inspire, encourage, and entertain people in the pursuit of their peak expression.
Yeah, something that's like something that's really hard is that like behavior affects mood, and mood affects behavior. And it's like this egg and chicken type of thing, where you're like, well, I feel like trash, so I want to eat like trash, and I don't want to do anything. And you go, you down spiral this way. And then once you're at the bottom, you go into this like me thing. Like, I feel terrible. Like, me this and me that. And I need to find a way to make myself feel better. And it's like the antidote to this is the more you do things for others, the more your life has meaning, the more there's a reason to get out of bed, and the more you want to take care of yourself. So it's just very interesting. And for me, like once I like realized that, that's kind of what gave me this like second win of like, oh my God, I am doing myself and the world such a disservice by shutting down my potential because I don't feel good, or I don't. And I'm not saying it's easy to get out of bed and all that, because when you're in that dark place, it's dark. Darn, it's dark, and it's very paralyzing. But I really felt like once I like flipped this little switch of like, it's a crime to let myself fade away, I'm like doing a disservice for this world. I have a talent, and whatever that talent is needs to come out, because all of us are important. We all have a talent. We all have a need for the world, and it is a crime to let someone fade away like this. And I had to do that for myself. And once I did that, you start making your bed every morning. And that was my first thing I did. And then you like start taking a shower every day. And then you start, and it's like once the bed is made, like everything started to fall back in place for me. And then that was my first like behavior change, which changed my mood, which now bring the routine back into place. And then you come back and start coasting. And
I
that
think it's
paired
so
with
cool the
like,
way you're describing this, because so many people think if you change the mindset, that will then change the action. And what I'm hearing, and Jordan Peterson talks about this a lot,
I
and
love Jordan
yeah, he's
Peterson.
great. And he always talks about building that momentum. Get that small win. This episode is brought to you by HVMN, Health via Modern Nutrition. They launched the world's first ketone drink in 2017, and then in 2022 launched the version 2 of their exogenous ketone product line called Ketone IQ. I found that incorporating ketones into my morning routine increased my daily focus and energy. The beauty of this product is that you can stack it. It doesn't even have to replace your morning routine. My morning routine looks like taking the dog on a walk, hitting my daily shot of Ketone IQ, hopping in the cold plunge, and then finishing it off with a nice Trident coffee while I soak up some morning sunlight. Try out some ketones for yourself by using the code INVICTUS for 20% off Ketone IQ. Ketones are a super efficient fuel for your brain that leaves you feeling energized and clear-headed. Give it a shot. I promise you won't regret it. Once again, use code INVICTUS for 20% off Ketone IQ. Move fast and break shit. This is one of the core values at LSKD and something that we fully resonate with here at the Invictus Mindset Podcast. LSKD develops functional sportswear with a streetwear aesthetic that's on a mission to inspire you to chase the vibe through sport, fitness, and adventure. Through my experiences with LSKD products and their team members, I have found a brand that I can call home that keeps me performing at my highest level through fitness and business. I train daily in the rep shorts and love the versatility they offer, so I can go from training at the gym directly to meetings, client consults, running errands, or preparing for podcasts. The LSKB vibe has finally reached San Diego, and we want you to experience it too. Go to us.lskd.co to start shopping today. We want to inspire you to chase the vibe. And we've heard the famous Navy SEAL speech around making your bed. And it can be the smallest, most mundane thing. But then that one thing, you start building speed, you start building that momentum, and then you start getting the dopamine hits of checking things off the list. Yeah. You're accomplishing things. You're now useful. You're giving your gift to the world, and you're doing something cool for the external world. And I've heard many people say this, but my dad actually said it on his deathbed, and that was, as long as you help other people along the journey, you'll always be okay. And I think there's subtle peace in that, knowing that, like, you know what, I'm not always going to make the right decision. I'm not always going to say or do the right thing, but the intention is going to be service and contribution to others. And then to relate that to your experience at age 25 when you won the CrossFit Games, I think sometimes people think success is achievement, but I think achievement without fulfillment is not actually winning. So it's like you won the thing, you were on the podium, you got to self-reflect and celebrate with, your family and friends and everybody that was a part of that journey. But deep down inside your core, when you looked yourself in the mirror to brush your teeth, you're like, that's a part of my story. That's not going to be the whole thing. And that's going to be a tool that helps catapult my service and contribution to others in using the transferable skills from that journey into this next chapter or new journey for you.
Yeah, that's it. I think you said it like exactly like how I try to explain to people how it felt when I won. Because when I won, it was like everyone would come to me like if they woke up tomorrow and won, like what a surprise, you know, what a shock. And it's like, unless you're part of the journey, you just don't understand that when I got to compete that year, right? And as I was competing, I just knew I could. It was like, I put so much work, I put all of it, I can feel it in my heart, like I am the best. And once I won, it wasn't like, oh my God, it was just relief. It was relief that I showed up for myself when it mattered because I knew I could. And it was just a feeling of peace on the next day that I could check this off my list.
Mm-hmm.
But then 2 days later, it was like, well, what now? And that was a question that weighed deeply on me. It weighted so much, like the weight of it, like it was almost suffocating, because it was this realization that there was so much more waiting for me. And I just knew that the more for me was different than this, like than winning. Like I just felt like my purpose was different than that. And then it was like, okay, I closed this chapter, and now I you know, it's like 10 doors of your life, and I just closed one of the door, and now I have to go open a new one and like go to the next level. And it's like, you need so much courage, and you need all the work ethic and to win that. And you're like, well, now it seems like life is calling me for a new challenge. And like, that one was really hard. Like, and
It's
you know,
so
the
interesting.
next one is harder, and you're like, it's like scary, and it's exciting, and it's confusing, and you have to let go of a part of yourself to open to the new self. And for me, my calling has always been to help people. So it was like, I knew I helped a lot. You know, when I was competing in CrossFit, especially when I started, it was so taboo for women to have muscle, and I just could not care less. Like I was so excited to, you know, give the middle finger to everyone with the watch me. Like, you say women can't have muscle, just watch me. Like, I do not care, and you can't stop me. And it was like, you know, now that chapter was closed, and it was like, well, like, what's next? And life just decided to give me quite the challenge.
Yeah, totally. That
to make
question
me
though
figure
is really scary. I mean, when you're looking at the identity, right? At the end of the day, we're all humans first. And I think sometimes the world likes to place titles or parameters around that,
Yes.
around Camille, the CrossFit Games athlete. And it's like, that's something you've done, but that's not actually who you are. And I
No.
think you described it really well around, you almost have to shed a part of you in order to get onto the next part. And it's incredibly courageous. I think it's very challenging for high-level athletes specifically, because they're given love and validation because of the thing. They're loved for function rather than just who they are. And it's really not fair, because
Well, yes. Not only that, like when you have all the sponsor, and they want you to represent exactly what they want you to represent.
Yeah.
They don't care who Camille is.
Yeah.
Camille to them, like, and I'm saying to them, I'm generalizing.
Totally.
But she was portrayed in a way that was so far from who I was. And I think only the people that been around me could. This is one of the comment I've got the most, like through my career. You're not at all what I thought you would be. And every time for me kind of hurt it, because I'm like, why in any way would you assume that I'm X, Y, or Z when you've never met me? And like all you've seen is like an ad of like me like being like, rare, tough girl, you know?
Isn't it so interesting that people are craving for you to fit into the narrative that they have in their mind based on a photo or a trigger or a tweet or
Yes.
an Instagram post? And
Or
in
one
reality,
comment.
Yeah, and in
Yeah, one
reality, a lot of
conversation
this social
after another.
media it's a lens. It's not the lens. People are showing what they want to show. But
Yeah.
it's so interesting. The thing that holds up most of us back is the story we tell ourselves. But it's just
Yeah.
unfair, the representation that people get that have the courage to put themselves into the limelight to try to help and support the world, but in reality they're also getting judged all the time. And it just goes back to the small insecurities that people live their day-to-day life with. And humbly, I do believe that most people are living lives of quiet desperation. And if we
Oh,
can give
yes.
them tools to honestly just be more curious about their judgment. Why do I feel that way about this person? Why am I thinking this way? Is it a personal insecurity? Usually, we're saying things that we dislike about others that we actually also dislike about ourselves. Let me sit with that. Let me reflect. Let me explore. Let me journal. And then I'll have a little bit more context and clarity rather than just the word vomit or the quick little tweet or the thing that's gently hurtful, not realizing that, okay, you're hiding behind a computer screen, but on the other side is a real human.
Hmm. I think, yeah, I think you're totally right. But more than that, instead of just being like, why is this triggering me? I think it's more like, what helped me so much? Like, we live in a world filled with addiction. We're living in a world filled with shame, guilt, and addiction. And it goes back to, and I feel like this is how it helped me with a lot of mine, is just having more love and compassion for our own self. Because we hold other people at a standard that we don't follow. And it's like, and then we fall into shame and guilt for our own self when we realize that sometimes we don't hold the standard. And then we, instead of like be having like that love and compassion for yourself and also for others, then we just sit and like points finger, well, you're worse than me and you're worse than me. And it's like just stop. You might just be at a different place in your journey. You might just have like different, fault and flaws than the other one. You might fall short. That's another place than this person, but no one is better or worse. We're just like here. So let's just like give love and compassion and like attack this together. And I really, having a daughter has changed so much for me, because I look at her, when she mess up, I don't go like, oh, you're so stupid. Like, I can't believe you did this. But that's how I talk to myself. So I started to do this thing, which I saw someone doing in a podcast. I was like, man, this is good, but I'm going to sound like a crazy person. But so I started to do this thing when I tell myself that, I'll say out loud, like I'll talk out loud to myself, like I'm talking to someone else. So instead of being like, I don't know, you eat like 2 cookies and then you feel ashamed that you ate the cookie. And instead of being, oh, you're so disgusting, you have no self-control, whatever, I would just, talk out loud and be, wow, you're having a hard time, huh? Like, you needed those cookies. It's okay. We'll do better tomorrow. And then it cuts there. And it's been very freeing to do things like that. But I feel like it changed also how I see other people. Because if I see them struggling, I just see them struggling. I don't see them, I don't know what to say. It's like someone like lose their patient and they yell. I don't see them as good or bad. I'm like, wow, they're struggling, with their emotion right now. Like, I'm sure it's really hard. And then you understand that they might go home and like spiral down within those feelings. And you've been through there and you're like, yeah, that's hard. Like, let me know how I can help.
I
But
think what I'm also hearing, Camille, that's incredible, is that I think we can all hide like our internal dialogue or our internal self-talk, but we know that it exists. So if we're seeing this variable over here of the outcome of somebody losing their shit for a moment and having like an emotional outburst, rather than just judging the outcome, it's pausing for a moment and realizing in the in-between, there's peaks and valleys of self-talk and invisible verbiage and dialogue that is on both sides of that, right? Like the input is then leading to the output, and we don't always see the in-between. And what I love about your outward spoken word is then it becomes real. Writing fills the gaps within our thinking. Nothing's greater than the spoken word. And you put it out into the universe where now it's like, whoa, that's how I talk to myself? That is totally not fair. I would never do that to others. And that is the golden rule, right? Like treat others the way you want to be treated. LMNT, pronounced element, is a tasty electrolyte drink mix with everything you need and nothing you don't. That means a science-backed electrolyte ratio with none of the junk. No sugar, no coloring, no artificial ingredients, no gluten, no fillers, and most importantly, no BS. Whether it's after a long workout, hot yoga, or an intense sauna and ice session, I've been using Element to keep me hydrated and replenishing all of my lost electrolytes. So many of us wake up chronically fatigued, and the antidote to this is salt water. Salt has previously been blamed for blood pressure issues, but new research shows that replenishing salt and electrolytes can lead to more energy, no headaches, a clear mind, and enhanced focus. Use the link drinklmnt.com/invictusmindset to make any purchase of Element, and you will receive a free sample pack with all of the Element flavors. Once again, that's drinklmnt.com/invictusmindset. And it's almost separation from self of like, oh, I can get away with it because it's me and nobody sees it. But in reality, it's holding yourself to the standard and making your internal dialogue almost highlighted so you can visually see it, feel it, and then change the behavior a little bit faster.
Becoming bitter to other because you treat your own self wrong is just not fair.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what
so
happens
true.
often is that we all have trauma from growing up. I think that's what being human is. I think that's why we're all relatable to each other, but to like bait in it without, trying to help your own self and then becoming bitter and resentful to the world because of it is just not okay.
Yeah.
And I think in the past, I would like, my younger self, because all of us younger, we've done things that you're like, well, that was yucky.
Totally.
And like, yeah, you look back at, your younger self and I just see a hurt person when I look back at myself. And I think like last year, which is not that long ago, but I just decided to forgive myself for reacting the way I reacted with the tools I had back then. And it's like not fair to keep being mean to my own self because I was always just doing my best with what I had. And as long as you move on and you learn, I think you're doing a great job.
Yeah, I think that's the key component is learning from it. And every experience it's an experiment. It's an opportunity to begin again and hopefully gathering more and better tools along the way. But an overarching theme so far, Camille, which I think is wonderfully beautiful, is you throughout all of these challenges, both the peaks, the valleys, spiraling downwards, spiraling upwards, you've had this intrinsic belief of I can get out of this scenario of my upbringing. I can pursue something and seek my edges and hopefully bring an amazing community with me to do it. How was that level of belief instilled in you? Was it from your parents? Was it from siblings? Like, where did your belief start in your journey?
Well, let's retract back for the part with, bringing the community with me. That's like a side effect. Mm-hmm. The fact that people are interested with me is like weird because I'm deep down an introvert and I just follow my life in a way that it's just, I don't know. I like challenge. I like pushing. I just want meaning in my life. But when it comes to belief, I just use to pray for as long as I can remember. And And I don't even know where it's from. It's I remember when I was a kid, like, and by a kid I mean like the earliest memory. There was this one star out that I could see out of my window at night, and it shone a little brighter than the other star. And I just decided that that was my star. And for as long as I can remember, every night I would look at it, and the feeling was as simple as it would feel like my heart would open, and I would just sit in that feeling, and I would just believe. I don't know what I was believing in, but I just felt free, and I would just hang on to that feeling. And I've done that all my life. And I just believe that the world would tell me where to go. With that, though, I didn't just sit and do nothing, right?
Yeah, of course. You still had action.
With that, I would just try anything. Like at my school, I love doing sport. I was part of every sport, team sport of the school. I was part of it all. Any challenge I would take on, I just didn't care, because it was like I had to try it all, because something had to stick, because I couldn't, it just felt so weird, the idea of living to do the same thing every day. Like there was this summer when I stopped doing gymnastic. I used to have like gymnastic all day in the summer, so my day was very failed. And then I kind of lost that love, and I got injured, and I just knew it was time to move on. And there was this summer that I had nothing to do, and oh boy, it was awful, but it was very important. And I do this sometimes when I'm lost. I like literally bore myself. And when you get bored, it makes you realize how not fun it is to have a life without meaning. Mm-hmm. And I think like this pairing of like opening my heart, like getting bored and having to do something about it, like always made me constantly take on new challenge. And then when you have a challenge and you commit to it, because you have to commit to it, and you give it a real shot, then you like can see if it's the path or not. And I think that is just what I've always done for as long as I can remember, because no one's going to do it for you. It wasn't a thing of like, I have motivation or I have this. It was just, I'm going to commit to this, and I'm going to just see. But, you know, doing nothing, even if it's boring, it's better. Doing something, even if it's boring, it's better than doing nothing.
I think boredom is such a...
boredom
is so interesting, because I'm not sure people experience that as much anymore. I think when people are bored, they just reach for the phone, and then they're scrolling through Instagram, or, you know, they'll play on Spotify or YouTube, and they'll find ways to mask the boredom with some sort of dopamine hit. And I think that's a really dangerous way of living, because those things can be great. They can be great educational and entertainment tools. However, if you don't know how to listen to that internal voice and press pause for a moment and really seek to understand, why am I feeling bored? What could be? Can I navigate all of these different thought patterns that I'm having? And it sounds to me that star that you could see from your window opened your eyes to opportunity, to possibility, you know, wondering, why are we here? Is that a star? Is it a flashlight? Are we in a simulation? What's going on here? Like, what kind of creative juices can we explore?
You're going way further than my little 5 years old brain. It was a star.
Yeah, totally.
That was it.
I don't know though. You may say that, and that's what it represented for you. But the way that you've lived your life is very unique, right? Like, you saw all those different doors after winning the CrossFit Games. And I don't know, humbly, in my opinion, the lenses that I'm hearing as I hear you storytell is that each one of those doors was a star. And you were like, hey, I'm going to go explore what that is, what that looks like, and see if it lights my heart on fire. And if it does, I'm going all in. And if it doesn't, then I'm going to backtrack, and I'm going to go through a different door, and I'm going to close that one and know that based on probability, that one's not for me. And I just think it's really cool that without even knowing it, you practiced the art of being a human being, and then later became human doing. And I think sometimes everybody's just do, just to mask the boredom, just to like feel accomplished and like feel like they're on the hamster wheel of satisfying this societal norm. But you really listened. What makes Camille come alive, and how can you play in that arena to help others? I just think it's pretty admirable.
Busy work and cutting the boredom is very dangerous, in my opinion. Um, Again, it's just that you have to move forward.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I'm like never on social media now, which I really need to do because it helps with the business and it helps spread the word. But I just want to be present, and I if you block all the feeling, it's like it's really hard to follow your path because you can't. I don't know how to say it, but like, I mean, if we take the analogy of that star, it's like almost this radar of doing things. It just shines somewhere a little, and then like the more you like try to put it down, the signal gets like louder and louder and louder, and it's like you better listen to it because it's telling you where you have to go. And if you're not doing it, it's just going to keep getting louder and louder and louder. And like, I'm so scared to get to the end of my life and not have followed whatever my purpose is. Just the same way that now I just can feel so deeply that my purpose, and this is very recent that I feel like I kind of put my finger more on it. But I really feel like my purpose right now is to understand that bridge between, exercise, nutrition, women getting older, and how to fill this gap between like, the more medical component and the more doable, actionable, like exercise, nutrition, lifestyle, like how they come together. Because that like mesh in the middle is where like women are deeply suffering, and it is driving me insane. Like literally, like I have books everywhere and I'm just like constantly trying to figure out how to help, because it's so frustrating to see people, like a lot of women, like constantly keep cutting the calorie, training more. And it's just that like how they train and like the timing, the type of nutrition they're doing is just a little off. Mm-hmm. And if you change that, you're good to go. And, they go to a medical doctor and the answer is constantly, well, you're getting older. It's like, ouch. Like yeah. There is solution.
It's also an easy answer that's not really explored or evaluated at all. And it sounds to me that you found a gap in the market. You've personally experienced a problem with this. You're seeking answers yourself. And now you're like, you know what? I'm going to find some solutions, and it may be some trial and error. It may take me some time, but there's going to be a theoretical, a practical, a scientific, and you're going to take all these different thought ideations, put them into a blender and make it digestible information for people to have actionables. And yes. That's what I'm really curious about. Like, how did you go from competing at such a high level and then putting on the business hat? How did you start the ideation and the creation of Feroce Fitness? And how's the business journey been?
Yeah, I mean, it's business is very interesting because I have no business background whatsoever. Like an athlete and an engineer are not business people. But, it just, for me, Feroce started as simply as this. When I was competing at the highest level, it was like my life was mapped down to like this second. Like I knew exactly what I was going to eat before, after training, like, and everything was based on like highest performance, highest recovery. And then I knew I wanted to get pregnant. I wanted to fix my hormones because my hormones were really bad after competing for 10 years. Like I didn't even know if I could get pregnant. So Zoe was like even more of a miracle baby than what people know. And I want to create something that is going to support my lifestyle as a mom, because this high performance is not it. And I don't want to go back to what I did before that when I was like super young, which was, running, abs, and under eating. And that was also not the answer. So Feroce for me was, I want to build something that is for the busy people that can be as efficient and effective as possible in order to put muscle on, make you feel good, change your aesthetic, and support your life. It shouldn't be something that you show up to the gym, you're completely trashed from the workout, or you can't do because, your shoulders are hurt because you're constantly holding a baby. It should be something that supports your life and make you become the best version of yourself. And it should be quick enough that you can do it. And it's just that everything down to the hormonal response as you train should be in line to help you burn fat, put muscle on, make you feel good. And that's really what the whole development of Feroce has been about. And everyone has been with me for like years. I've seen the program change because the more knowledge I gain, the more I change the way I do things, because that's what, life is about. So if you have a methodology that hasn't changed in 10 years, oh boy, like, maybe we should revisit this. Though there is some methodology that are going to be good forever. They just,
the simple stuff kind of always has a place, but it's cool to see how you've evolved it over time, and you're empowering women to be their strongest selves and providing education around more than just the training, but how the training can be customized and fit into one's really busy lifestyle. Because there's no point in hitting workouts that trash you, and then you're worthless at home. You can't be present for your significant other. You're not there for your children. You can't do the things that you ultimately want to do. It should serve and support as opposed to being an either or.
Yeah, and I agree. It's not also either you chase the performance with CrossFit or you chase the aesthetic in bodybuilding. It's like, why can't we have both?
Mm-hmm. And one of my favorite questions of all time.
Yeah, you really can do it. That's what both me and Dave do, because we're like, what? And funny enough, like when Dave started bodybuilding before me, because he had a back surgery. So it was like, okay, how can we find purpose again and be able to enjoy training again, where, we need to isolate things a lot better. And that's kind of how we both, and for me, I had shoulder surgery that same year. So we both really got into hypertrophy training, which is the methodology of growing muscle. So it's like, okay, how can we put muscle back on ourselves like as quick as possible? And that is the best methodology to use. And we really got interested by that. And it was kind of, then Dave did a bodybuilding show. And I remember I had people like that worked for CrossFit HQ that would send me DMs saying, oh my God, it's so funny that Dave is doing this. Like thinking that we were laughing at them. And in my head, I was like, first of all, if you've ever done a bodybuilding show, what you have to go through to get on the stage is so hard.
It's tough.
Literally as hard as going to the CrossFit game. And I was like, who would do that? Who would put themselves through such like pain and dedication and discipline to just go laugh? But it just shows like how hard it is for people to get out of their box and be like, hey, bodybuilding's been around forever and it produced the best looking body out there. And it's like the best methodology to put muscle on and build foundation without like getting injured. So maybe there's something we can learn here that could like really support the performance side, because it seems like people are starting to get hurt quite a bit here on this side by going really hard on the intensity, maybe not spending time with the foundation. So for me and Dave, like especially after we did this first show, we started to work with some of the best trainer in bodybuilding, and our mind were blown away, just blown away with the science behind it, like doing things with a lot more purpose. Because if you look back at CrossFit, you can give one workout with 100% and everyone is going to do it differently. So everyone is getting a different stimulus out of it. So going backward and being able to control the stimulus, which is what bodybuilding is, now you're able to get your athlete to train with the much more controlled purpose. And it's very exciting, especially when you come back from rehabilitation. For me, it was very exciting coming back from my 12 weeks at the NICU, because when I was at the NICU, I was battling, like, I wasn't sleeping at all. I was battling like a tremendous amount of stress and like anxiety and like just so scared if I was going to bring my baby back home. So going to try to do a high intensity workout was literally the last thing I could do. And I tried, and I would have panic attack nonstop because it was way too much. So being able to have something I can do on purpose, with purpose, that I can control all the variables, was just so helpful to feel like I was doing forward progress. And I just think that there's a place that you can have both, and that's what we do. And it works.
I really think the way you describe that is honestly magical, because inevitably people are going to go through traumas, and based on the traumas, they're going to have their nervous system go haywire. Sometimes that's chronically parasympathetic, and sometimes that's sympathetic. And what I think is really cool about the integration of bodybuilding and the bodybuilding principles are you're getting to know yourself again. Sometimes with CrossFit, it's this synergistic approach of core to extremity, where all the muscles are working in unison to maximize output, intensity, and then how much did you lift or what's the time?
Yes.
Well, inevitably, when you've got 85 other things on your plate, it elicits anxiety when you go to that place. So it's actually not fun anymore. It's literally going to a place of survival. This episode is brought to you by Mush. My friends over at Mush created an incredibly cool product of ready-to-eat overnight oats. And for those of you that listen to the podcast often, you know simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. And Mush has done just that, as their products have no more than 7 clean ingredients that are dairy-free, gluten-free, with no added sugar. Mush started right here at Invictus, as they had a vision to create convenient, healthy, and clean nutrition. And this landed them on Shark Tank, where the famous Mark Cuban invested in them. Now they're found in retailers all over the country, including Costco, Sprouts, Target, and Whole Foods. Check out my friends over at www.eatmush.com. And when you've gone through something like you went through, and like what Dave went through with his back injury, and you're in a CrossFit environment, which can be an amazing environment with community and connection and all kinds of magic, but it can also be a little bit toxic when it's not fitting your needs in that moment. And there's judgment when you're the guy in the corner doing T-bar rows and hamstring curls and bicep curls and single arm tricep extensions, which absolutely serve a purpose for the foundation. You're understanding muscle contractility. You're understanding which muscles play various roles in the big lifting movements that are typically tested and played with and practiced in a CrossFit space. There's so much value. And I think what's cool is this has elevated the conversation, where when we're looking at high value programs these days, there are bodybuilding sessions. You know, Marcus Philly's popularized functional bodybuilding. We've seen you guys with Muscle Anarchy and a few other programs that synergize with different CrossFit modalities. We're seeing accessory work with some of the various programs out there. And it is really cool. And hopefully over time, it allows that the goal of CrossFit shouldn't always be high intensity, but maybe rather varied intensity. And how does that fit the goals and the narrative of the individual, that, you know, maybe their goal is performance twice a week, but then they want to look good, feel good the other days. And I would probably argue, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I would say the majority of people are probably trying to pursue body composition goals which then synergize with health biomarkers and being able to do what they want when they want in their life,
Yes.
as opposed to like, hey, what's your 1 rep max in said lift?
Yes, I think, just looking at like a bunch of our friends have gyms and the gym we go here, you see that things are starting to change. And I think that a lot of the, CrossFit methodology was kind of explained with this, comparing like this person who, only does like slow lift, and then this person who only does running, and then the CrossFitter, and you're like, that's like not really fair to do that, because
It's limited context.
Yeah, exactly. Because the way, I train most of the time right now is I'll do progressive overload, like bodybuilding type of training, which are like separated like each day with like body parts. So, Monday's leg day, Tuesday I'll do shoulders, and Wednesday's back day. Thursday I'll do like glute because I want a good butt, And then Saturday I'll do a more focused thing. And then everything is also paired with some sort of cardio component with like different time domain. And what I've noticed is that I'm getting faster at running, and I'm getting much better at all my lift. I'm developing musculature, I'm developing endurance and speed at the same time, and I'm not doing them like together. And now when I go like once in a while train with here, like I train at CrossFit West Chase, I hold my own. So it's like very like exciting to see how like, I don't think it's really true. I do think that, if you do long distance running, you develop your capacity, and then you pair it with some sprint, you get better like in the middle when you go run your 5K. And if on the side you like build your capacity in deadlift, well, you also get better at running and doing the deadlift together. Mm-hmm. Like it's just more complex, I think, and there is more things that happen in the body than just taking the example of the person that is like specialized in this thing and this thing, then looking at like your day-to-day person that do want to do bodybuilding 3 days a week to make their body look and feel good and build a foundation, and maybe do a CrossFit class like 2 or 3 days a week because they love the community, and the CrossFit class is just also really healthy because now we talk about high intensity interval that's been shown to really help growth hormone production. And I think doing things and building relationship is super important. So there's good in all of it, but it's not okay, I think, for both sides to use like the end of the spectrum of people to say that their methodology is best. Because I think that it's more complex than that, and meshing it all together is the way.
Yeah, and it's also fun for the mind. Like we talked about before, like you're not going to get bored if you're trying different modalities. You get to meet different people and different demographics, and it doesn't have to be always based on historical reference and scientific data. Sometimes it can be tinkering in the lab. Sometimes it can be, hey, I saw you do that. Let me go play. Like, and CrossFit's kind of popularized being like this adult playground where it's like, hey, Camille, you want to come play in my sandbox? Okay, cool. I'll go play in your sandbox. And you see like the different sand castles in each place. And it ends up being this really fun exploratory art. And that's what I think you guys are doing, which is absolutely magical. And I wanted to ask you this. What's it like married to somebody who loves fitness as much as Dave does, but he's also a little bit of a character and brings a humor side of things. He's always pumping and like bringing in some of the fun bro science, but then also real science as well. It has to be incredibly entertaining and fun for the both of you guys to play ping pong. You're helping women in their journeys, and he's helping men in their journeys.
Yeah, I think it's it's interesting because no one knows what it's like when we're just home together, right? But I think we're both so passionate about what we do that like I tell him all the time, every time we drive somewhere, I'm like, gosh, I wish there was a mic in this car. Because we just nerd out about everything. we like just get so into it, and we challenge each other a lot in so many different ways. And I think that's what makes a relationship so fun, because he'll see me get completely like starting to nerd out on stuff, and then we're like always at delay from each other, and we like pass the ball to each other all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll be like done nerding with my thing, and I'll, you know, start to put like a kind of a curriculum together, like try to figure out how to put it all together, which is kind of what I'm doing right now with figuring out like just how to maximize hormones with women as they decrease over age, with like exercise and what type of food, and like, you know, how much we should train, like how to aid with the sleep and all of that. And as I'm like doing my research, Dave is kind of already like applying it, and he's building this master class right now with his guy stuff and the hormones and on this side. So now I'm most likely going to do master class next. And it's just really fun to do that with each other. And the other thing we do all the time, it'll be like, what did we do recently? We started to play with blood starvation, like type of training, where it's like you don't let the blood flow back into the muscle, so you try to really like get the work that you're doing to be compounding, like add on to each other like real quick and create.
Is this like a blood flow restriction training?
So it's not blood flow restriction training. It's not like with the cuff. So it'd be something like you're doing like 10 set, and you do 7 strict press, and then you just keep your hands up on a bar.
Oh,
so
okay.
the blood doesn't get to like clean up.
Interesting. That's cool.
We're always looking at different ways to make muscle grow and build like hypertrophy and bring changes in people's body with like the least amount of weight or the least amount of things that can hurt you. So, you know, Dave will come back home and is like, we're trying this. And then we'll like do it for 2-3 weeks, right? And like see the benefit, how it works, if it's how we can apply it, if it really works. And yeah, I guess that's our life. We're like literally a lab. Like I'm doing a continuous glucose monitoring right now. So I can see. So one of the thing I'm really into right now is seeing how the high intensity interval versus steady state cardio affects your hormones and your insulin sensitivity. And also how it pairs into like putting you in that glycolytic pathway when you're fasted, so you can start to really pull out that glucose out and glycogen out of your muscle in order to use it, and then put yourself more in a fat burning state. So I'm like on my phone with the glucose monitor, and he was like, how is it? Every day.
Constant like, feedback, constant playing, and constant exploration. We're all an experiment.
Yeah, so we both like kind of have this thing that we explore, and then we like pass the ball. And I'm telling you, Dave's gonna have a glucose monitoring on him soon, because he's starting to be obsessed with my results. So it's really fun. It's fun to get to play with your best friend, and you know, we push each other to be like smarter and better, and we keep each other in check, because sometimes we'll say something and then we're like, that's not true. I'm like, oh, like
that's fun.
Back. Yeah.
I'm very thankful to have you on today. And as we wrap things up, Camille, you were a part of the Invictus community for a really long time. Mm-hmm. And I'm very thankful to have crossed paths with you and spent quite a bit of time with you and Dave behind the scenes, building memories, watching you get after it. Many laughs and bodybuilding experiences with Dave and I broing out in the corner. But what was your experience like, you know, working with CJ and being a part of the Sea of Green, you know, not just as an athlete, but you were a coach there too?
You know, as you get older, you're able to look back at things with a lot more perspective. Mm-hmm. And I have to say, something that CJ has that I haven't seen many coaches have, and I feel so grateful that I was with him because of that. He wants his athlete to succeed as people. He doesn't, I just never felt like and I might be wrong or not, I don't know, but I never felt the pressure from him to like absolutely have a number next to my name. Like, you have to be first, or like, he would never bring down any other coaches. He was just such a positive person. And it was so important to him that his athletes were doing something with their life. And it was always like that. I always felt like with him, the gym was fun. Like, we had so much fun at the gym. There was so much laugh. He is literally one of the most hilarious person you can ever meet. And it was kind of this like underlying rule that was never spoken about, that you were going to show up and your job was to be like the best version of yourself. And your job was no whining, like keep the standard high. And someday the best version of yourself might just be like, you know, trying to make people laugh. But that's something that I'm very grateful that I was a part of. And I think that it really spilled out over. And you can see like the people who would stay versus leave with Invictus, like the people who stayed a lot, I've always felt like they were just very humble, hardworking people. And they like really fit into like what CJ brought, because that's what he is. He just works so hard. It's insane, but he's like just a good person. And yeah, I can only speak good thing about him. And it's pretty crazy to look back at where my journey started, where, you know, we would go train at Josh Britt's house, like just me, CJ and Josh.
Yep.
Like, it was crazy because he would come at night, like, and we would train at Josh's house, and CJ was like there, like looking at a wall ball on Josh's like garage wall. And his passion of just being part of people's life and like wanting everyone to better themselves as a person was very potent, and definitely spilled over onto everyone, which yeah.
It's super cool to see your growth and development, you know, from the OG days where we did it for the passion. We just got after it and threw down. I mean, I remember the first time I met you at Valley CrossFit with Becca Voigt and Chris Clever, and we were throwing down. We did like shouldered overhead at 185 and rope climbs, and I had no business doing either things. It was like
I met you.
That was the first time I met you, was at Valley CrossFit. Yep. And you know, I never forget that day because I had no responsibility doing that workout, and I was like, I want to do it. I want to hang out with these guys. They seem super cool. And
but see, that's the part I fell in love with CrossFit. That it was that part. It wasn't the like very structured thing. I just love playing.
Yeah, same.
Like I'm still like that. So when there's new methodology, new thing to try, like even like now with, you know, following my glucose, everything is just feels like playing and learning, and, you know, let's see if we go against the grain, what's going to happen. And let me tell you, nothing is never as good or as bad as you think when you do like what people tell you not to do. And sometimes you get some good and bad surprise, and that's it.
It's maintaining that childlike mindset. And, you know, we say it often, and that's play is the highest form of learning. And I'm really enjoying watching you guys play and being able to cross paths with you guys. Any final thoughts to share with our community as we kind of wrap things up?
Oh, I think it's like, you know, for women and men that are getting older and that have those roadblocks that you feel alone and it makes you suffer. There's so many people suffering in silence, Bryce. It like just breaks my heart. Literally come talk to us. There's a way to feel better, and more important than all of it, you're not alone. Like you're just not alone, and like deal with yourself with love and compassion, and come find someone that has that love and compassion too, because everyone's out there. We're all human. Like please just go find help. There is help out there.
We're all just trying to do the best that we can. And
Yes.
I really appreciate you doing this. It's so awesome to see your face and connect and hear about all the cool things that you and Dave have going on. And I look forward to seeing you soon.
Thanks, Bryce. Thanks for having me.
For those of you listening or observing on YouTube, if you enjoyed my conversation with Camille Leblanc Bazinet, please rate, review, subscribe, and share with your friends. Until next time, guys. Are you over 35 and in need of a solid training program? Are you looking to improve your athleticism and keep up with the younger athletes in your CrossFit gym? Then look no further than our Invictus Masters program. This program places year-round emphasis on mobility and stability exercises with movements that we have seen directly benefit our Masters athletes. Our program is led by Nicole DeHart and offers a training program designed specifically for Masters athletes who are looking to compete at a higher level in the sport of CrossFit. Some of our top Masters athletes in the world train with us, including CrossFit Games champion Kevin Kester, Matt Beals, and Pat Sprague. You can learn more about their stories and the Invictus Masters program by checking out their episodes right here on the Invictus Mindset Podcast. If you'd like more information about the current training cycle or to join the Invictus Masters program, please email Nicole at invictusathlete.com. That's NICHOLE at invictusathlete.com.